Hi, this is
Hi.
Mark and Michelle, and this is episode 19. And we wanted to start out today by giving you a little bit of who we are. I'm
We've
Mark.
been married 24 years.
All right. And in the 18th year of our marriage, I was diagnosed with autism. So we lived most of the marriage with my autism.
So far, yes.
And then in the 19th year, which was 2013, I started on the GAPS diet. We found out about the GAPS diet and started on our healing journey from autism and her from numerous things such as Lyme, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and a few other things as well. And we've been doing that for the past 5 years now. So that's a little bit about us.
Well, we started the medical medium diet in
Back in January, that's right. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
But
so we're here to help people who want to heal from autism.
Yes. Or any other things. We can help you with the medical medium as well, but our expertise is really in helping people heal from autism. So
what are we talking about today?
We are talking about beliefs and how to change them around healing autism. And of course, the tools that we'll give you on changing your beliefs work for any beliefs, not just those around healing autism. But we wanted to talk about that because we hear people say numerous things. Oh, well, it's hard, or autism can't be healed, or autism is a part of my loved one or a part of my life. Okay, those are beliefs, because if you change those beliefs, things would change for you.
So yesterday we saw a podcast. No, we didn't. We saw a TED Talk.
It was a TED Talk, and he was a scientist, a researcher in England, and I think his name was Anil Seth at the University of Sussex. And do you remember what the TED Talk was about?
He was talking about how reality is actually hallucinations.
Exactly. He was explaining how your brain really conjures up your reality as much from what you believe and think about your world as well as what you get from outside of your body. And basically he was saying that your world, all of our worlds, our consciousness conjures up the hallucination we call reality.
Other people call it a hologram.
Exactly.
So that means you can reprogram.
Exactly. And I don't think he meant hallucination in a negative sense, because he was really talking about it positively.
Yes, he was saying that we all agree on the hallucination for the most part.
Well, for the most part. And he did talk about mental health a little bit, but that we can post a TED Talk for later on. But just to get started, was there something else you wanted to touch? Just to get started, I have 3 beliefs that I hear constantly from a lot of our clients and a lot of people we know in our support group online, Heal Your Autism on Facebook. They say, well, healing autism is hard, or autism can't be healed, or whatever. I'm just going to go through 3 of those major beliefs, and we'll talk about it real quick. The first one is autism can't be healed. Well, I think that there might be a vested interest for some folks in believing that autism can't be healed. For me, there was not. No one told me, hey, your autism can't be healed, which is good, because being a literal-minded autistic person, I probably just would believe that and taken that as gospel truth. And so when we found the GAPS diet, when you came across the GAPS diet, I didn't have any preconceptions about not being able to get rid of my autism. And I think subconsciously I was looking for a way, because I found my autism absolutely frustrating. And when our book is published and finally comes out, you'll be able to read about all of those frustrations, or at least 90% of them. And so when people say autism can't be healed, that's just a belief. You could actually stop and think about that and change that belief if you wanted to. But it's interesting in that autism does not seem to be so hardwired that it doesn't respond to therapies of many different kinds. ACC, anti-color chelation. Some people have good experiences in losing autistic behaviors using anti-color chelation. Other people use the GAPS diet or other biomedical approaches, and I know a few people who have completely removed their kids from the spectrum using diet alone.
Well, and some people just use behavioral therapy, which actually helps.
Yes, applied behavioral, I think that's correct. Applied behavioral therapy, and some people have had good experience with that as well. So to me, if autism responds to any therapy at all, then it must be changeable. It must be malleable. And so at some point, why couldn't you just improve so much that you finally be off the spectrum? That just makes logical sense to me. So as far as autism can't be healed, I don't know. I think you'll find a large group of people out there who believe that it can be because they refuse to take no, it can't be healed as an answer.
So when you think that way, then answers come to you.
Well, and what she's saying is when you are willing to question that belief, and that's one of the tools we'll talk about here in a minute, when you're willing to question that belief, then your mind is now open to new answers.
It cracks it just enough to let a little light in.
Exactly. And so in that sense, just saying that autism can't be healed, you could stop and say, you know what if it could be healed? If you start questioning that, then you're at least being willing to not think so rigidly about it and willing to open yourself up to other possibilities. So again, I can tell you that throughout my life, my autism definitely got worse as I got older. And our 24th wedding anniversary was last Sunday. And we've been married for 24 years. And we were looking, she had found some pictures on our wedding day and a couple days after that. And it's amazing how at 25, 26, how unautistic I looked at that point. I didn't have the inflammation. I was not overweight. I didn't have pasty skin. I actually looked pretty healthy. And I didn't have quite the sparkle in my eye that I do now as an NT. But I definitely didn't feel as bad in my mid-20s, right after we got married, as I did in my mid-late 30s and 40s. Starting in 2008, we had visited out here, and then we went back home to Atlanta. And for some reason in 2008, after visiting here, I started eating more and crappier junk food. And that really made my autism worse for the next 5 years. So between 2008 and 2013, when we found the GAPS diet, I was as bad autistic.
A zombie.
Pretty much. I was as bad. Food made me a zombie. Couple bad food with autism, and I had a really bad combination. And I think a lot of you out there who have loved ones who are autistic can say that. The worse food they eat, the more trouble and struggle they have getting through life every day. And so when we found the GAPS diet in 2013, again, while I wasn't consciously looking for something, subconsciously I was so frustrated with life, and I was consciously frustrated with life as well, that this was for me a godsend. And so don't just take no for an answer when it comes to autism can't be healed. Give it a try, and because you'll see improvement. Just stick with it. Commitment is doing it until you win.
Our experience was any improvement at all made it worth it because his life improved.
But then her life improved directly as well.
Yes.
Because she had to live with me for all that time. And so just starting and keeping going, just tweak things to work for you guys. That's all you need to do. All right, let's go on to the next belief. Healing is hard. Okay, hard. We'll put that in quotes. Usually when people say hard, what they're really saying is, I don't know how to do it. Or it isn't easy.
Or I can't do it.
Or I can't do it, or whatever. We all bring different things to the table of life, so to speak, skill-wise. The GAPS diet was easy for me because I had spent numerous years already cooking. I went to a year of culinary school. I didn't finish that, but then I cooked in a lot of fine dining restaurants and hotels and stuff like that. And so as far as making the broth and cooking meat and that type of stuff, I was already an old pro at that. But I'll tell you what was hard for me was this, not knowing what to expect when it came to the healing on the GAPS diet. And now that I've been down that road,
I guess we both felt that way.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, definitely you did,
Yeah.
because later on you said, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't think this
Yeah.
would work, and I was worried that you weren't going to like me.
Yeah, I was afraid he'd be a different person. You know what? He wasn't. That's another thing people are afraid of.
Well, and we'll get to that in the next belief, because I was, new parts of me came out, but it did not change the essence of who I was.
Right.
I was still a likable, actually, I'm more of a fun person now. My personality is actually quite fun, which for me as an Aspie, that part did not come out.
Yeah.
And so it made it tough on her, it made it tough on me as well. But now, I'm a pretty fun person, I think, and I'm actually happy now, because happy was not a word you would have associated with me and my autism.
No.
So, and other people wouldn't either, not just her. She lived closest to it. But
so hard.
But hard. Usually people say, well, I don't know what I'm doing. That's true. That may be true, at least as far as the cooking goes, but that's why I'm here. That's why she's here. We can help you with the cooking. If you have questions, you come to us. We can show you what to do.
And I think his point was he knows now what to expect, so
Well,
he can help you.
Exactly. Well, I know what to expect now because I've already been down the road. There have been people who have been down this road before me. Maybe not necessarily with a GAPS diet,
And maybe not adults.
And maybe not adults. So far, I haven't seen any adults who have healed their autism while they were still adults. So, if you know of anybody, connect them with me because we are interested in talking to them. But as far as that goes, hard, what you're really saying is, I don't know what to expect, or I don't know what to do. I know what to do, and I know what to expect, because I've compared my story with the stories of mothers who are healing their children from autism, and it seems to be nearly the same. Your senses start waking up and your emotions start waking up within the first year. And for me, it was in the first 6 months. For children, it seems to be in the first few weeks, because I think they heal faster. But as I was a 44, 45-year-old adult when I started this, and so I had accumulated a lot of damage to my intestinal tract and that kind of thing. So my brain was definitely not in working order. But basically what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be hard, because there's other people who can help you down the path. Me for one. Our friend Lindsay Carey on Spectrum Able, she's another person. So, and you'll find others as well. But as far as that goes, it doesn't have to be hard, because there's other people who've done it.
Change your belief.
Well, you have to change your belief on being hard. Why is it hard? Just because you don't know? That's true. You've solved problems before in your life, and this is just another problem. That's it. And you just solve it just as easily as you do, well, what do I do about getting my check-in on time? You know, it's really no more difficult than that. It just seems like it because you think of it as life-changing. Well, don't think that far ahead in the future.
Yeah.
So, all right, should we move on to the next one?
Well, you could change it to healing is easy.
Well, you could. Yes, that's true. You could. You could say that healing is easy on purpose. Just question why you think it's hard. Well, why is it hard? Well, I've never done it before. That's true, but very few people have. But there are some people who have, so they can help you. Well, it's hard because
I don't have enough money to pay for this diet.
Exactly. Well, let me put it to you this way. Doing this diet, or the medical medium diet, another one which we've done since January, is still cheaper than any medical bill you have. It just is. And you'll be getting your health in order, and you'll be healthy. You'll be getting your immune system back. You'll be getting your brain back.
Hydrochloric acid back.
Hydrochloric acid in you'll be getting your digestive system back.
Yeah.
So that being the biggest thing, because your immune system and your central nervous system, your brain and that kind of stuff, all depend on getting your digestive system back.
So how do we change a thought like healing is hard to healing is easy?
Well, you could use affirmations, but I find those take a while and are brute force. So what we'll do is we'll list a few of the tools that we've used. And I think the biggest and the priority the number one tool that we've used is being willing to change.
Just being willing to see that thought differently.
Right. And one of our favorite authors that we've read in the past, Louise Hay, she said, it's just a thought, and a thought can be changed.
And a belief is just a thought over and over and over.
Exactly. And one of our other favorite authors, Wayne Dyer, he used to say this: change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And that's basically what we're saying. Change the way you look at healing, and it will change for you. I mean, it just will. You may have to consciously go, you know what? I choose not to think that it's hard. I choose to think that it's easy.
And we acknowledge that our autism is hard. We acknowledge that. So, but what we're saying is change a place in your brain to make this little crack open.
Yes, just be willing to allow the possibility of. And that is the number one. You have to be willing to want to change it. Otherwise, you'll just resist.
You can even be willing to think about maybe thinking about it.
Exactly. You can be willing to be willing, right?
Just that much opens just enough to help you get there.
Right. So that's the best place to start. Now, one of the other tools we've used was EFT. And a lot of folks know it. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And
it's also called tapping.
It is. And back in fact, a lot of you folks will know the tapping thing from Nick Ortner, if you've ever read him. He's written a few books about tapping, and he's actually really good at it as well. But the one person that we originally found it from was a guy named Gary Craig, who developed this, I think, in the late 1970s. And his website is called emofree.com. And there are videos on there. There are manuals on how to do it. You can find all kinds of videos on the internet on doing EFT tapping. And it's really good. Basically what you're doing, I'm not going to explain it all here just because it would take too much time. But what you do is you set up your statement, which you'll have to look at.
For example, would be, even though I think healing autism is hard, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Exactly. So you start, even though I believe healing autism is hard, I deeply and completely accept myself.
And you do that 2 more times right there.
Right. 2 more times. And then what you do is you tap on the acupressure points.
What you're doing is taking it out. Healing is hard.
Mm-hmm. Healing is hard.
Healing autism is hard.
Healing autism is hard. Healing autism is hard. Oh, I don't know.
Well, then it works that way
but
too.
It works anyway. Healing autism is hard. 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 This is under your collarbone. Healing autism is hard. This is just under your nipples. And healing autism is hard under your arm. You can just do one side or both sides.
You can do this monkey.
Yeah, you can do the monkey. But anyway.
And then you breathe, and you think, okay, where am I at? If I was at a 10, like this is just completely impossible. Where am I now? Maybe I'm at a 6. Then so you do it again.
Exactly. You want to bring your strong feelings over healing autism is hard down to like a 0. Or if you could get to a 0, that's a possibility. Yeah.
And then you go back and you want to put in what you want, and you say, healing is easy. And you do the same thing again. And you really feel that.
So that's just the basics of EFT, but you would definitely want to look it up for yourself. But that tool has been wonderful for us.
Yes.
And we started doing it in March of 2009. We've been doing it a little over 9 years now. And even as an Aspie, I could notice it changed me. Not immediately, but only when I encountered a situation that brought up that same belief. But now as an NT, I can actually feel it change me within a few minutes. So that's awesome. And that's been one of our best tools. Another tool that we've used is forgiveness, because you'll need to forgive yourself for believing that autism is hard or to change, or forgive yourself for believing that change is hard. And there are many ways you can forgive, but basically, as Michelle was saying yesterday, we have a forgiveness prayer.
And what we're working with here is the energy body, the ones that we have that we can't see. And that's where all this muck gets stuck. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, all this muck gets stuck, right? And
a good way to do it is to put your hand like this, and then, can they see?
Yeah, I think I can see it.
And then this really digs in deep into your energy bodies.
Uh-huh.
And then you say, first you forgive yourself, then you forgive all those involved, then you ask forgiveness from whatever entity you feel is larger than yourself, and then you thank.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so that's the way we've done it, and that helps move out a lot of the emotion behind the beliefs and sometimes the beliefs themselves. So forgiveness was another tool we used. Questioning the belief. Now that goes along with being willing to. Once you're willing to question, once you're willing to change, then questioning the belief helps as much, because, for instance, I think healing autism is hard. Well, why? Because it just seems overwhelming. Okay. Well, why is it overwhelming? Because there's just so much to do. Well,
why is there so much to do?
Right. Just because I don't know where to start. That's usually
Why don't you know where to start?
Because I've never done this before.
Why haven't you done this before? Because
I've never needed to do this before. So you just break it down, and you finally get to what you finally really get to is just your fear of doing something new. And of course it is something new. So, hey Shirley, Shirley Street Joint. But anyway, just the fear of starting something new is really what the basic core is. And when you finally get down to that, you go, oh, that's all it is? Oh, okay. Yeah, but how many times in your life have you actually started something new? Quite a bit. And you just took it one small step at a time. And that's all you do with this. So questioning.
But I know a lot of people are in survival mode because their Aspies or their autistic people are in survival mode, and that makes it even harder to be right where you need to be because you're already overwhelmed.
Well, and what you're saying is, in survival mode, it's hard to calm down enough to see where you are in one particular moment.
So the thing I showed you like this will help you calm down.
Yes, and deep breathing exercises will help you calm down too. That I think that even works. That worked a good bit for me even when I was autistic. So anyway, but those are some of the tools that we've used, and I think we'll move on to the last belief. Autism is a part of my autistic loved one or part of me. Well, okay, that's true. But if you've heard the statement, if you've seen a person with autism, you've just seen one person with autism. Why do they say that?
Yeah.
Well, obviously all autistic people differ, because if autism was the only thing that made you who you are, then all autistic people would look exactly the same.
Right.
And they don't. Each autistic person differs from another, just like each NT differs from another. There's a different personality in each person, no matter whether you have autism or whether you don't. Because if you didn't, you'd all be cookie cutter. But you're not. And NTs aren't cookie cutter either. That might be news to some autistic folks out there, but they're not cookie cutter. And I had to find that out myself because I believe the same thing. Now I don't. So if you can change your brain or change your life by thinking differently, and your brain is physically a part of you, then what makes you think that your autism can't be changed or your loved one's autism can't be changed too?
But they still remain.
Yet, I'm even more me now without the autism than I ever was with it. She can attest to that. So can my parents. So can the people that I work with, because they've seen me change over the past 5.5 years. They've seen the changes. So I'm going to tell you now that you can believe that it is a part of you if you want, But what if spontaneously you woke up one morning and it was gone? What would you do? I think you would have a lot of soul searching to do because all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, who am I now? I mean, and it wouldn't be a bad thing to lose it. So if any one part of your physical body can change, and then even your mind can change, which we don't know how much our mind is actually our body yet. If we can even change our minds, who's to say that autism is the only unchangeable thing in us if we're autistic? I disagree with that statement that autism is a part of you and will forever remain so. Because
you have to, because you lost it and you're here.
Right. I'm still here, and I'm even more here than I was. So for me personally, that belief doesn't hold any water for me. And be willing to change that if you decide you want to heal your autism. All you have to do is just be willing to. Question all your beliefs. Because while that will throw you into chaos for a while, after a while, you'll gain beliefs that you really need and really want in your life.
Like what?
Like, I love life.
Mm-hmm.
My life is so much better now. It was like going from listening to radio to watching a 3D movie on a Cinemax screen. And that's how much more interesting life has become for me. But we have gone over our normal time limit.
That's all right.
Is that all right? All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
No.
No, I think we pretty much covered what we wanted to talk about today, and we hope you enjoy our 19th episode of This is Mark and Michelle, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.